Welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Podcast. I'm your host, Shauna Nyrose, and today's episode you are not going to want to miss. It is unlike any other that we have ever recorded because my guest today is Corinne Wade. She is the foremost authority on pelvic floor physiotherapy in the Central Okanagan, and we talk about all things pee, poo, and sex. The bottom line is, if you're experiencing anything unusual in these three areas of your health, you're going to want to listen up. Welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Podcast. Today's guest is someone I have known for, golly, how long has it been? Like 15 years?
Probably at least, maybe even 20, because my daughter is 20.
Yeah.
Probably.
So I'm really excited to welcome Corinne Wade. And here's a funny little story about Corinne Wade. Before I tell you like who she is and what she does, and how we know each other, I was putting together the questions for this interview yesterday, and I printed them off. And I forgot them on the printer. And so when we do that around here, somebody very kindly picks them up and they put them in a little bin. And then everybody can kind of see what you've printed off until you go and pick it up. And so one of the gals that works in the office picked it up for me. And she said, oh, you're having Corinne Wade on the podcast tomorrow. I said, yes. She's like, oh, she's the best. I said, oh, you know her? She's like, every woman who's had a child in this city knows Corinne Wade.
So funny. That's a good thing.
It's a very good thing. So I'm so happy to welcome you to the podcast, Corinne. Corinne is a physiotherapist, if you didn't guess that already, and her specialty is pelvic floor physiotherapy. Yeah. And I first met Corinne in yoga class.
You were my instructor.
I was. And ironically, I got to know Corrine a lot better on a professional level because, ironically, as a yoga teacher, I was struggling with chronic low back pain, and I had mentioned it, and she said, you should come and see me. And I said, okay, I will. Not really knowing what I was in for. And so any of you that are listening right now that have actually had pelvic floor physiotherapy will know what I'm talking about. But I was quite surprised, let's say, about what is entailed in that particular form of therapy. However, it was very effective. And so it gives me great joy to be able to sit down with you and speak for an hour or more, a little bit more, on everything that you do and the reason why this conversation is so incredibly important, not just for women, but for men. We'll touch on men a little bit. Yeah. And literally for anybody that is struggling with some of these issues that we don't really talk enough about.
No.
Yes. So that's my intro for Corinne. It's a little like different for me, less formal. And now I'm going to actually ask you in your own words, Corinne, who are you and what is the mission that you are on?
Good question. Well, I'm so many things. I'm a mom, right? I'm a business owner. But I always joke, my partner, my family, they always say, you know, even if you weren't getting paid, you'd probably be still doing this, right? And I said, definitely, right? So it is my passion, and I feel lucky that I have a job that I look forward to going to, because I think I make such an impact in people's lives. And not that if I was treating someone's ankle or wrist that I wouldn't make an impact, but I think, and we'll talk about this in the podcast, but the pelvic floor impacts so many facets of our life and big pieces like work and travel and play and pain and disability and all those things. So I think that's where I feel lucky to have that framework.
And you've been doing this before it was cool. Like,
yes.
I say that because you mentioned before we started recording that some of these topics are having their moment in social media.
Yep.
But you've been doing this before
even
decades.
Doctors knew it was a thing. Because I graduated from UBC physio school 30 years ago, right? Worked in Kelowna for a little bit, moved to the US, worked as a physio in the US. And so back then, 30 years ago, in Europe and United States, because it's a bigger country, pelvic floor was a big thing. But it wasn't really happening in Kelowna, a little bit in Vancouver. So when I lived in the US, that's where I started taking my training. And I wasn't a mom then yet, right? So a lot of my patients, they're like, why do you, as I'm treating them vaginally or rectally, they're like, what made you get into this, right? And so I think it's when I started to see the need when I was working in the US, even in the geriatric population.
Yeah.
Right? So I was initially working with a lot of people with strokes, bedridden people with pressure sores. So even incontinence in that realm, that it's so necessary, right? That like, again, any age spectrum. So I think that's what's different is I worked in the US about 3.5 years, came back to Kelowna. And then when I started working, this is before the internet was a big thing, I had to really connect with doctors and specialists and midwives and say, hey, this is a thing. And so it took quite a while. A lot of doctors are like, what?
Yeah.
What? So it's good. Now there's more knowledge, but we
Awareness.
still need more.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're
Right?
going to talk a little bit about that, about the integration or interconnection between what you do and some of the primary care opportunities that people have to start having these conversations, and then where do we go from there? But first, I think it would be really helpful for you to like I mean, I can give you what I think pelvic floor physiotherapy is, because I've had it, but I think it's valuable for you to talk about what it actually is, and what you're actually doing, just in general.
You're like, what is happening? So I always say all ages, all genders. Okay. So my caseload's so busy that I tend to treat maybe 16 years and older, so teenagers and adults. But definitely there are pelvic floor physios. There's a really great clinic in Kelowna that specializes pediatrics.
Oh, okay.
Super, uber, duper important at a young age, right? That we have children's pelvic floor constipation, bedwetting, all those things. So Kelowna Kids Physiotherapy, a plug for them. For any parent, because before we had pediatric pelvic floor physio in Kelowna, parents were having to go to Vancouver.
Oh, wow.
To take their children there, right? So
this is the story of why we exist, the KGH Foundation, because we're trying to, again, bring those services to Kelowna. So that's really good to hear.
So for kids, of course, we would never do anything internal, right? So there's lots of external things we can do at any age. So I treat more teenagers, adults, and what they would be mainly coming to see a pelvic floor physio for would be, and we'll talk more about this, but the general categories would be, I say, pee, poo, sex. Okay.
There you have it.
So
can
bladder,
we put that
bowel,
in the title, Arden?
Right. Pee, poo, sex. So it's bladder, bowel, sexual function. But then the pelvic floor is also responsible for supporting our organs. It's one of our main core muscles. So to help support the spine, the organs, prevent hernias, all those things.
Right.
Okay. So what we typically do when you say, what do I do? So a typical patient coming to see me or any other pelvic physio in Kelowna, we do quite an extensive intake form, number one. Because just like Vince that you interviewed. So that whole idea of biopsychosocial is so important for any type of pain, but especially pelvic, anything.
So I'm going to double click on that because we did talk about that with Vince, who is also a physio. What do you mean when you say biopsychosocial?
So not only the physical, so this is where it's not just Kegels.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a big myth.
I know. I'm like literally sitting up straighter as we're talking and like,
you're like,
just engage my core a little bit.
So again, it's not just muscles and it's not just the pelvic floor, but imagine our emotional, spiritual, mental health. Again, it's all of it together.
Right.
So definitely we want that holistic. And the way it ties into pelvic floor is that our stress response.
Okay.
So I think everyone thinks, oh, if I'm stressed, I might clench my jaw, just like Vince was talking about, right? Or I might have neck pain. So it's interesting in the research they've done, the first muscle group that activates when we're feeling unsafe,
Right.
or
Like
in
the
fight,
fight
flight,
or flight.
freeze,
Yeah.
it's your pelvic floor
Oh, interesting.
before you're even conscious of it. So it's very subconscious, kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even an animal, if it's running away from a grizzly bear, right? Imagine a little kitty cat or puppy dog. It's going to tuck its tail.
Yes.
And then it runs. And if you think of it, like, why does it do that?
Yeah.
Right? We do the same thing, because if you were in a forest and let's say, Shauna, you were being chased by a grizzly bear, you're going to shut those sphincters down.
Yeah.
You're going to tighten, and you're not going to stop
Right.
and be like, wait, grizzly bear, hold on.
It's like you're bracing yourself.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
literally, so our pelvic floor attaches to our tailbone.
Okay.
So if we were an animal, when we wag our tail, pelvic floor is relaxed. So imagine any animal that you have at home, right? When it's happy, it's relaxed, it's wagging, it's right, or it's twitching its tail. But if it's like threatened, it's going to tuck it.
Or if its tail's down, that's an indication that it's
under threat. Yeah. So that animal is trying to close its anal sphincter, urethral sphincter, or any orifice, right? Because you're not going to just relax that.
Right.
So imagine for birth, same thing, that we're not going to open up those pelvic floor muscles if we don't feel safe.
Right.
So that's part of that biopsychosocial.
Oh, interesting.
So a lot of my intake form, I actually have like research-based questions.
Yeah.
That actually will help let me know. Let's say if you were coming to see me, before you even come to see me, I'm like, how is Shauna's stress response? Right? Like previous trauma or like work stress, right?
Yeah.
So if your nervous system is already
activated,
upregulated, it's good for me to know as a physio that I'm gonna probably anticipate those muscles, or like your jaw, right? They're all gonna be in a protective state.
Right. So they'll be like
gripping.
Really grippy.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I try to tell my patients when something's tight, right? It could be more because it's tight because it's protecting and holding and guarding.
Yeah.
Which is very different than, let's say, if I put your arm in a cast for 8 weeks.
Right.
Right. And they say, hey, Shauna, I'm going to take that cast off. And then we're going to, stretch it and take you to yoga.
Right.
And pretty quick.
Like clench a ball. And try to,
Pretty quick, you're not going to have the habit of holding that muscle tight that was in the cast because it's done.
Right.
Whereas that protective state, that if you're in that fight, flight, freeze, because maybe you have a stressful job or someone just passed away in your family, or you just moved COVID, during COVID, I treated so many patients that had increased, all of a sudden, out of the blue, urgency.
Urgency to go to the washroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like the gotta go.
Yeah.
Or pain with urination, bowel movements. And you might think, well, that's weird. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
And so for some people, it might have been the postures they were sitting in. So as physios, what I would look at is kind of that, again, that whole picture. How is Shauna doing emotionally, mentally in your job with your kids?
Physically, yeah.
And also looking at all the muscles, right?
Right.
Right? Like your hip muscles, the butt muscles, abs. So it all works with the pelvic floor. And even the nerves and how you're breathing. So I think it's, again, kind of looking at the whole body.
Yeah.
That the pelvic floor isn't just working by itself.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then so it's so interesting that you say that, because like when you talk about, we talked to Vince about TMJ, right? Or even just how stress manifests. There's areas of the body where it's quite loud, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, my neck, like, oh, stress, whatever, right? Shoulders. But you don't notice. This is what blew my mind when I actually did have therapy with you, is that you don't actually notice when you called it. This was the first time
TMJ
I ever,
of your JJ?
TMJ of your JJ. But like you called it tone.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to get you to talk about that a little bit. But like it was the first time I'd ever come across that word in reference to a muscle characterization. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
you know what that word means, but for me, it was like, I get what you're saying. Like it you don't notice when it's gripping.
Yes.
Down there.
Yep.
But when it is gripping and it's gripping for a very long period of time and it's not releasing,
it's like a habit.
It manifests as all of these other sort of downstream, if you want to call it, issues.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what are those issues?
Well, good question. So yeah, I try to tell my patients a muscle. So you could have a muscle that has high tone or over recruited.
Yeah.
And so I like to think of it as your brain, without you knowing it, is sending constant messages to that muscle.
Yeah.
So again, that's different than you being in a cast for 8 weeks and we took the cast off.
It's like more passive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where I've had patients where they know maybe that, even outer muscles, my hip or my butt muscles, I can tell they don't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
They might try stretching and it might work really well. But I have lots of clients, they're like, Corrine, I've tried stretching 5 times a day. I do yoga twice a day. It's not letting go,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's that over recruited.
Mm-hmm.
So that might manifest. So let's say for bladder, that might be, it hurts to pee,
Mm-hmm.
or I can't fully empty.
Mm-hmm.
Because imagine when we pee, our pelvic floor has to open the tap.
Yep.
Right. But again, we don't think of that when it's just working properly.
And then when it's not working, you're like,
how come I can't do it?
Relax.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And then we end up straining.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want straining because that downward pressure on the pelvic floor over time can weaken it. But again, then those organs get pushed down.
Mm-hmm.
So each organ can kind of manifest it different ways. So let's say for bowels, if a muscle's really tight, so imagine that kitty cat puppy dog analogy.
Mm-hmm.
If the anal sphincter's in the protective, like I don't feel safe. And so that's like what Vince was talking about, is when we feel safe and supported, like in birth, or for having a good poo, right? So imagine as your mom, all the moms out there with little kids, and someone's knocking on the door like, mom, 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 mom. And you're like,
can I just please
trying to have a bowel movement?
Yes.
Right? That's why we can't do it. It's not that you don't feel safe at home, but someone knocking on the door,
mm-hmm.
or you're trying to have pleasurable intercourse with your partner.
Yeah.
Right? So again, it could be that poo, pee, birth, sex, those main categories. Whether it's intercourse or having a baby, if we don't feel safe and we're trying to birth a baby, it doesn't matter how much birth prep you've done. Right. So a lot of work I do.
And do you think people know that going in?
No, I don't think so.
Can you have, I'm just thinking.
No, I don't think they know.
Yeah. There's people that I know in my life that have had, let's say, childhood trauma, and
exactly.
I think it's so interesting because we can get into this, but how that might manifest is in the pelvic floor would definitely translate into a really difficult birth experience potentially, but you may not make that connection.
No. And that's why I think, again, I'm biased, right?
Yeah.
But for pelvic physio, if people have the resources, right? Like even seeing a pelvic physiotherapist, even just once.
Yeah.
Like when the person finds out they're pregnant.
Yeah.
Or even the fertility journey, right? So if the pelvic floor muscles and the abdominal muscles and your diaphragm, like those core muscles, if they're quite tight and protected all the time, that might affect tension around the fallopian tubes, or like just the whole,
also
just all those things we don't know about.
Yeah.
All these things we're finding out with the brain
mm-hmm.
and the interconnectedness with our nervous system, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, and again, it's chicken versus the egg, but from yoga, sometimes if a muscle is holding too much, getting it to let go then makes you feel calm.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Right? So we're always trying to like go, okay, I'm not sure where it started, but let's get it balanced.
Yeah.
Right? So it's okay to have stress in our life, right?
Yeah.
But we don't want the body holding on to it. And there's a good book called The Body Keeps Score.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the body can remember those traumas even from when you were little.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be things like, I've had patients where maybe they fell, I don't know, onto some monkey bars, like with their crotch hits the bar.
Yeah, or like balance beam. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
And then later in life, they're like, I don't know why it hurts to pee. I don't know why I can't fully empty my bowels when I have a bowel movement.
So the injury may have healed, but the
brain is remembering. So that intake form I do, I tell patients, I kind of take them through this timeline of their whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want you to walk me through. And they're like, oh, but why do you care what happened when I was a kid? And I'm like, because I want you to know, like, I want to know, were you the type of little kid that wouldn't go pee or poo at school?
How many of us have that little kid?
Yes. And that's where,
oh my gosh, I totally have one of those.
Pediatric pelvic physio is so important. So I think it's important for anyone listening. is anything we can do preventatively to
Right.
get good habits when we're young, right?
Right.
And of course, we all know about fruits and vegetables and fiber and hydration, but it's more like as a parent, making sure you tell your child it shouldn't hurt when you go poo, right? Or if you see your little one pooing and it's all like rabbit pellets,
Yeah.
or they're straining, or it's only every 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's
not good.
That's not normal.
No.
Even if they are, like, I mean, it's hard sometimes to get all the fiber and this and that,
Exactly. But if they're feeling anxious at school,
Yeah.
so that happened to my son when he was little, maybe grade 2, and I'm a pelvic floor physio,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, but he didn't tell me he was being bullied in the bathroom as a little boy. So all of a sudden at school, I was getting phone calls and the teacher's like, you have to come bring him clothing. He keeps peeing himself, sitting in the classroom because he's too afraid to go to the bathroom because there was other kids in the bathroom, like shutting the lights and running away and making the little kids scared. But he felt so much shame that he didn't tell the teacher or me. Right? So once we figured out what was going on, we helped him feel safe. Right? So he didn't need physio. He just needed the teacher to kind of address the bullying, and then it was okay. But it's that sort of thing, right? Is having good communication with like the parents, the teachers, the coaches, anyone throughout the lifespan. Because if we can get those good habits earlier, then later that won't be a problem.
It
for
won't
that
come
child.
up and manifest as other things too. Yeah.
So I think the hard part is knowing what's normal.
Yeah.
Right? Like even as an adult, a lot of my patients, they're like, well, how often should I go pee or poo, or like, should I be peeing 5 times a night? No.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to do as physios too, is it's not normal to be waking up 5 times a night to go pee, because then you're not getting good sleep. Right. And so that's where sometimes the hormone, I know we'll talk about hormones.
Oh my
stuff.
goodness. Yeah.
So again, it's multifaceted. So just as physios, we are trying to look at like the whole system, the nerves, the muscles, the fascia. So again, not just pelvic floor, but like how they all talk to each other.
Yep. And you do this for adults.
Yeah. And even teenagers.
Yeah. And teenagers. Yeah. Like internally?
Well, good question. So for a teenager, there's lots of teens. I would never obviously do anything internal.
Okay.
So there's lots I can check from the outside. So let's say when we're talking about gymnasts, right? Or I treat lots of horseback riders or ballet. So not that any of those sports are bad, or anything on ice. So for male or female patients.
Okay.
I've
Anything on ice?
Yeah.
Like hockey too?
Yeah. Okay. So hockey or figure skating or ringette.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're on ice, you have to really grip your inner
Right.
thighs,
Yes.
right? Otherwise your legs splay and you are like Bambi on ice.
Yeah.
So imagine if you've done anything on ice enough as a child, which again is a really good sport.
Yeah.
It's just you might have a really good ability
to
grip
yeah.
your undercarriage, like the pelvic floor, because it's the bottom of the pelvis.
To support your body doing that activity.
Yeah. And the inner thigh muscles attach.
Interesting.
Right into that undercarriage. And then the hamstrings attach close to the pelvic floor.
Right.
And then the hip rotators work with the pelvic floor and the glutes. So again, that's why it's never just the pelvic floor.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of teenagers where I never take their pants off, right? And I'm just watching, how are they breathing? Are they sucking their abs in all day? Again, which is not good, right?
Right.
So I have like kids playing competitive hockey, like the hockey school where they're 7 times a day, whatever.
Yeah.
And the girls might be leaking urine.
Yeah.
As they're playing hockey, but they've never had a baby, right? You think, well, why is that child leaking urine?
Yeah.
So often their muscles are, again, over-recruited.
Over-gripping.
And those muscles aren't working through their full range of motion. So I think, again, that's a typical myth for pelvic floor, right? Or our abs, that tight is not strong.
Right. Yes.
Right? And I grew up in the Jane Fonda era, right? So that's a big thing people can be doing that doesn't cost any money, that we've got to stop telling women or teenagers to like grip their abs or grip anything all day long. And I can't tell you how many patients I have. They're like, I don't know why my back is sore. And I'm like, oh, okay, show me how you activate your core. And they're like, oh, I'm doing it when I brush my teeth. Yeah. When I sit at my computer, I'm doing it when I drive my car. So I think that's important for people to know. It's kind of like, I say tension to task. So what that would mean is if I said, hey, Shauna, I want you to bend over and pick up that Kleenex. And if I saw you grip your abs and like activate your core, like you're going to CrossFit, I'd go, whoa.
Yeah.
Right? The amount of activity your muscles need. to pick up that Kleenex shouldn't be that much. So that's where that over-recruited thing comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So then we help teach patients what's the appropriate amount of tension to pick up a Kleenex.
Right. So you can do those kinds of assessments without doing an internal. Yeah.
And even for adults, I have lots of female, male patients that any pelvic floor physio, we always say, hey, we ask consent. And if someone's not comfortable, then we never, ever, ever. So a really good pelvic floor session does not have to include internal work, like intervaginal or anal.
Yeah.
Because from the outside, I can palpate muscles that attach in that neighborhood. But even, let's say, even if you had a pair of yoga pants on.
Yeah.
So even anyone at home, if they're like, well, I don't know, how do I know if my pelvic floor is tight? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So number one, it shouldn't hurt for a female to put in a tampon.
Okay.
So for teenagers, that's a big red flag. So of course, first few times if you're learning.
Right.
But I have lots of patients that are like swimmers, right? Teenagers that are competitive gymnasts, swimmers, and figure skating. They're wearing like little tight outfits.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I can't wear a pad to that swim competition.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't put a Diva cup in or a tampon because it really hurts. So I've had lots of clients where, again, I never take their pants off, but I can teach them how to relax their pelvic floor. And bit by bit, a little bit at a time, again, like Vince said, we make the body feel safe and appropriate. But at home, someone could just have a pair of yoga pants on because they're snug and touch their perineum or that piece of your underwear that goes between the anus and the vagina.
The taint.
The taint. Yeah. Or for men too, right?
Yeah.
And that pelvic floor gently should be able to rise and fall.
Yeah.
Like just gently. And like a little bit off whatever they're sitting on and then go back down. So that's a test, right? We can call that a Kegel, right? But we're also looking like, does that muscle have full range of motion?
Right.
So back to like that elbow analogy.
Yeah.
If I took a cast off your elbow and Shauna only had half of range of motion, right? It makes sense as physios. We're like, oh, we're going to get that full range of motion. Right. And then bit by bit, we get more strength. But also then it's like, can we coordinate?
You also get more control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you had something happen to your arm and I said, hey, Shauna, I want you to catch this ball.
Yeah.
You have to have the coordination to like not just activate your elbow, but your hand, your shoulder. Same with pelvic floor. So again, we're always kind of like number one after a baby.
Yeah.
Or after something happens, we help go, okay, here's the pelvic floor. Let's help you move it appropriately on and off. But the goal is always to put it back into the kid playing hockey or the mom picking up her baby.
Yeah.
Or going to yoga.
Yeah.
Or Pilates.
Yeah.
Right. So the goal would be that eventually they don't have to think about that.
But initially, that's part of
retrain.
This is a part of the physio. It doesn't matter what kind of physio I do. It's always just like
it's just like retraining.
Yes, like there's always homework.
I know. But the good part is sometimes it can be like fun homework.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I do think that. So full disclosure, I had the internal treatment.
Yeah.
And it was awkward, but it was okay. Like, because you are extremely professional and you know exactly what you're doing. But it was very interesting too, also, because I think that when there's something that when you can feel it, actually, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if they call it like proprioception.
It's exactly that.
Exactly. So when you can feel it, then you know how to, like, where it is in space.
Yeah. You
kind of know what you're talking about. Like, because theoretically, you can sort of talk about those muscles, but
till the cows come home.
Yeah, but other than a Kegel or like, oh, I'm going to hold it so I don't have to pee my pants or whatever, you don't, it's very complicated in there.
Yes. Because there's lots of layers.
Yes.
The pelvic floor.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, like you used to teach yoga.
Yes.
So I've treated lots of yoga instructors, Pilates instructors, any fitness instructor. And you would think, oh yeah, they must know how to do it. Not necessarily. And it's nothing against, it's just you can't see that muscle.
Well, and here's the thing too, is why you were talking. Yeah, you can't. And in yoga, I'm not going to get in all to it, but we talk about the bandhas, right?
Yeah.
So
the Mula Bandha and
Mula Bandha, which is the pelvic floor, and Uddiyana Bandha, which is like
Yeah.
core. And the goal is to like keep those locked in so that you can support the rest of your practice. But the problem is
that's not how it works.
Is you have to be able to let them go. And we don't talk about that in yoga.
No.
Like you relax Mula Bandha, right? Like it's always zip it up.
Yeah.
So
you're right. That
the internal I found to be
helpful.
Yes, super helpful because I didn't really understand. Like you can understand it looking at a textbook or theoretically, but until you actually feel it, you don't
feel it.
Yeah, you don't really know it.
Yeah. And so again, if people don't have the resources, right, to go see or I treat a lot of patients, they live up north, like in the middle of nowhere, and I might do telehealth with them. So again, that's always during COVID, we did a lot of telehealth. So again, it doesn't have to be touching somebody. That a lot of pelvic physios throughout BC, we would like via video. So let's say you lived in, I don't know, somewhere way up in northern BC and you're like, there are no pelvic physios. I'm a mom. My partner's working somewhere else. Like I can't even leave the house to go get physio, even if there was a physio.
Yeah.
So then we can always do video consultation, but it could be on that sort of a consult. It'd be like, Shauna, okay, I'm going to watch you on the video and watch how you breathe. So as the rib cage moves when we breathe, the diaphragm works with the pelvic floor. So if that rib cage isn't moving, the pelvic floor is not moving. And in yoga, that's what I see a lot. And again, nothing against yoga, but it could be Pilates, Tai Chi, whatever, is I don't like the term belly breathing because a lot of my patients, when they belly breathe, sometimes the only thing moving is their like stomach.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas the diaphragm lives in the rib cage. So again, that's just a cue for people. Deep breathing could calm the nervous system. Right. So that's always where I start. Any pelvic physio, we usually start with the breath.
Right.
Because your diaphragm's a core muscle. But also if we can calm the nervous system and get the pelvic floor and the diaphragm moving, that's a twofer. That's a 2 for 1. That's an extra bonus. And then we help put that breath into whatever movement. Right?
Totally.
Yeah. And so that even in yoga, there should be an on and an off, kind of. So let's say if you're bridging, that's a good example, right? If people are like, well, what is Corrine talking about with how would I put the pelvic floor into like a functional boot camp, Pilates, whatever they're doing, right? That let's say if you go up into a bridge, right? Most people are like, oh yeah, I know my butt and my hamstrings and my core, they're working the hardest once I get to the top of the bridge. And then when I come back down, this is what I see with a lot of patients. I say, come back down and their butt is still clenching.
Totally.
Right? So
guilty.
it should turn off.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just helping people. So even if I didn't touch anyone, I could be like, hey, if you're at home and I'm watching you on the video, or you're postpartum.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, why is my tailbone so sore? And I'm like, well, let's see if you're clenching your bum all day. That's a big cause of tailbone pain, back pain. So someone could just have their own hands on their body and kind of go, do my glutes go on? Do they come off? And that's where I think a lot of people don't. They're like, Corrine, I don't feel like my glutes are getting stronger. You've probably heard women say that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, like my arm wouldn't get stronger either if I didn't put the bicep curl down and pick it up. So that's true for any muscle.
Yeah.
But same for pelvic floor. So people can use their hands at first at home when no one's looking.
Yeah.
Right? Get comfortable with it. And then it could be, again, bit by bit, we put it into more functional movement.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Okay, so we've got through question 1.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to go like this, but I do think it's super valuable to kind of follow the flow of this conversation because, and I want to get into this, pelvic floor health is so often overlooked. We look at the downstream problems.
Yes.
Right. So bladder incontinence, constipation, low back pain.
Yes, that's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I came to you, is low back pain. And now that you're talking, I'm like, I've totally diagnosed myself. I was like, oh, I wasn't turning off my pelvic floor. Like, you know what I mean?
Or your butt or whatever.
Or my butt is always on.
Because you did gymnastics.
Yes. Yeah. And like, it's so funny because sometimes I'll be like, I know. Can you quote me on that?
Tight butt.
My butt is always on. But like, I will notice sometimes with a good teacher, a good yoga teacher, they'll say, relax your glutes. And I'm like, oh, what? Why are they on?
Exactly. It's just habit.
But so again, what I'm saying is that we tend to focus on the downstream issues because that's where the pain
Yes.
or the discomfort is manifesting.
Totally.
But I mean, I think it's fairly obvious why the pelvic floor is overlooked or misunderstood. We talked about this before we started recording because we don't like to talk about our bits and pieces.
Exactly. It's shame. Like it's the shame and taboos.
Like even when you said like you could touch yourself.
And you're like, oh, would I? Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Like, but also, you know, we're talking about pelvic floor health, and you can't really have a conversation about pelvic floor health without talking about some really potentially disastrous repercussions of not having a good relationship with your bits and pieces.
Yes.
So, and you work very closely with clinicians and physicians with regards to vulva cancers, pre and post treatment for some of those female cancers, vaginal cancers,
and also colon cancer,
right? Prostate. I mean, we'll talk about men
and endometrial, like it could be uterus, cervical, like anywhere in the pelvis,
right? But if you don't look down there and you don't have, this sounds so weird, but like a relationship with what's going on down there, then it's very difficult. Like when I discovered I had breast cancer, it was because we've been reminded as women since we basically grew breasts that we need to touch them once a month or occasionally so that we can make sure that they're not changing. But we don't do that.
Nope. And I think men, it's different. So I always tell people it's kind of like if you think of your kids when they were little in the bathtub. Mm-hmm. For boys, it's different because their genitalia is on the outside.
Right.
So I think
they are always picking at it.
Exactly. So dudes have a very comfortable relationship with their body.
They really, well, with that area,
and I think it's cultural.
Yeah.
But it's also visible.
Yeah.
So if I'm teaching a male how to activate and let go their pelvic floor, they can actually feel and see. They can look in the mirror or put their hand on that, and they can like feel their testicles pick up and drop.
Yeah.
Because it's on the outside.
Oh, they can.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You're like, hello. You're like, who knew?
I didn't know that.
So I think it comes from when we are parenting our children.
Yeah.
So I think number one, what we want to start changing in the world, right, is to get rid of that ick and shame.
Yeah.
For boys and girls, but especially for girls. So I think a lot of little girls, when they're in the bathtub, if they're exploring their vulva or their labia, some parents might go, oh, no, take your hand away from that. That's dirty. That's naughty.
Yeah.
Whereas it's possible they might not say that to their son.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Or it's cultural. So I've definitely had patients that have moved here from like the Middle East or whatever environment they were brought up in. So I always meet people where they're at. So culturally, they might not feel safe or okay looking down there with a mirror. So I've had a lot of patients where they're like, Corrine, in the shower, I have never actually put my hand on my vulva to wash with soap and water. I use a face cloth.
Yeah.
Like hand over hand, like hand over the face cloth on the, right?
Yeah.
Which again, I would only if someone felt comfortable, right? But bit by bit, encourage them to be like, hey, in a safe space, lock the bedroom door, but maybe start taking out a mirror
and looking
and explore and just look at the color of the skin, right? Are there any bumps or lesions, right? Like precancerous kind of stuff or skin cancer.
Yeah.
Like I've had skin cancer twice because my dad is Scottish and I grew up on a farm, but like I love that I go to Dr. Wise at the clinic, skin cancer clinic.
Yeah.
So he said he's really trying to educate people too, that even where the sun doesn't shine, right? You can get melanoma. So I think it's important knowing what it looks like before having a baby.
Yeah.
Or before, like whatever.
Yeah.
So that if there are any changes, we can get on it right away. And then treatment, as you know, like breast cancer, it's more effective and it's less invasive if we can catch it as an early biopsy or, right?
Yeah.
So I think we want to remove that shame. And for men too, like doing testicular checks
100%.
and checking their bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's so important. But then postpartum, so that women can look and be like, oh, you know, the stitches that I had after my episiotomy, the obstetrician said it should be healed now, and it's not. How come? So pelvic physio wise, I help women with that, but sometimes they might be in a low estrogen state. So we can have low estrogen when we're breastfeeding or when we're menopausal. Mm-hmm. So tissue or tearing might not heal after having a baby, and that could be very painful. And someone might be like, well, my doctor said I should be good to have sex at like 6 weeks. And I'm like, no. Because I'll look down there and it might be red and swollen or bleeding, or there might be granulation tissue, which is tissue that doesn't heal properly. So again, I think, and it's hard in our healthcare crisis, right? A lot of women don't have a GP, right? Or they don't have a healthcare provider they can go to. So again, pelvic physio could be an option, but also it could just be like knowing what it normally looks like.
Yeah, just look.
And then they can be more informed, even if it has to be a telehealth. They can say to their doctor, I looked with a mirror and what I'm seeing is this.
Is it normal?
Yeah. And can you help me? Yeah. Instead of being, we don't want women to feel ashamed and then not go to the doctor.
Totally. Or just not want, here's the thing about breast exams that I know to be true for myself. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to do it because I'm afraid of what I may or may not find. Right. But then I still do it anyway.
Yes, I know.
And I think that's, one of the things, and we talk about this on this podcast nearly every episode, is that it doesn't really matter how good our health system is unless we're participating in our prevention, own health care, right?
And it doesn't cost money to examine your breast or your vulva
so
or your
even
anus,
if it,
right?
I mean, you say that and I'm like,
you're like,
oh, but you're right. I don't want to look down there, but
I know.
I do feel like maybe I could just
take a peek. Yeah. And, baby steps.
Or so I tell maybe people, just get my husband to look. Like,
exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, is everything looking okay down there?
Yeah. And that's where the hormone piece can come.
Right.
Because let's say if someone's low estrogen state, so after breast cancer.
Right.
So I think it's really important for women that have gone through breast cancer that they might be having vulvar symptoms. Mm-hmm. So I think people forget that. They're like, oh, but the cancer was up on top. I'm like, no, you can still have pain with intercourse. So some of the signs of low estrogen, right? And they call it GSM, like genital urinary syndrome of menopause.
Right.
But now there's also GSL, genital urinary symptom of lactation.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you what that, and it's similar to low estrogen state with cancer treatment.
Interesting.
So whatever reason that there's not enough estrogen where we need it, and there's more estrogen receptors in the vulva, right? Vaginal canal, urethra, right? So that's where Dr. Locke, the urologist, she's so proactive, and the bladder. So if we have less estrogen when we're lactating, cancer treatment, menopause,
right,
that may manifest as itching on the outside, irritation, and kind of like, oh, I can't wear jeans. I can't, my underwear is rubbing on my clit and I can't, like, it's like
uncomfortable,
like sandpaper in your eye, or like sand in your eye. Those are all signs that's not normal. Right? Because we shouldn't feel our clothing. Like you shouldn't have an awareness of like, oh, that's rubbing on my something, right? And I say that because a lot of women are like, oh, I've had that so long, like I just thought, like I just stopped wearing jeans. So we don't want discomfort. It could be pain with sitting on your vulva or on a bicycle.
Right.
So it can be the external skin.
Interesting.
Or clit or the clitoral hood.
Yeah. Because
again, like the foreskin on a penis, that should slide and glide. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, what the? But again, for men.
Also, it's like 9:30.
It's like coffee talk. But I think for, again, men.
I'm not ready for this.
You're like, it's too much. But imagine little boys and men.
Yeah.
If their foreskin wasn't moving or it hurt, they are yippee skippy right to the doctor.
Totally.
Because they're like, this could affect my
ability to.
So I think in general, the men I talk to, they're better at advocating. Because I think they're maybe, I don't know. I think as women also we're busy and we're like, oh, I'll get to it later. Like I also have to, or it's the food for the kids or whatever.
I think it too is like, we're just like, whatever. It's just normal.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
You know
what?
We're
myth,
so
right?
used to, like myth busting. Let's get into that. Like, it's like, I do feel like women just with menstrual cycles
Yeah.
and hormone fluctuations. And, we've had Dr. Pegden on. So we do know that men have similar issues with hormones, but it manifests differently. It's not as pronounced. Right? So I think sometimes for women, we just learn to
just live with
dismiss it
I
and
know.
just be like, whatever, it'll be gone in a week or whatever. And sometimes that's what happens, particularly if you're talking about estrogen cycles.
And even perimenopause, like when you had Dr. Shamerhorn on. I think what's tricky for women, it's this, like she said, puberty in reverse.
Yeah.
So it can be a slow, insidious, little bit at a time, where all of a sudden you're like, I don't even remember what normal feels like.
Totally.
Whereas I think for men, they can still have changes, but it's not like a slip and slide for 15 years, right? It's more kind of like, oh, I'm noticing this isn't working.
Yeah.
So I think for women, again, it's important for them to kind of know, like, if I am in a low estrogen state, there's things we can do. Vaginal estrogen is one of like the most important things. But if women are like, nope, I'm not okay with that, like using a vaginal moisturizer, but also going to see a pelvic physio, because it's a vicious circle. So let's say every time your jeans touch on the outside and it hurts, what do you think your muscles are going to do in your undercarriage? They're going to protect and get into that high tone state. Or if every time you have intercourse it hurts, you're going to start protecting, and then that's where the muscles get into the habitual holding, and now we're in a vicious circle. Yeah. Because now the tighter it gets, the more it hurts, the more it hurts, the more I tighten.
So
kind of right.
The moral of the story is none of this stuff should really hurt.
No. So sex should not hurt.
Right.
Tampons should not hurt.
Right.
Diva cup should not hurt. Pap smears should not hurt. And I have so many women, they have been traumatized a lot, and nothing against the healthcare system, but like if I were to patent a new bed for women to go have a pap smear on, they need leg support.
Yeah.
There's no leg support on those things. Yeah. So remember how I said the inner thigh muscles and the hip and the butt muscles work with the pelvic floor. So I have lots of women, I'm like, if you're having, like, number one, a pelvic physio can help, but I'm like, if you have to go for a pap smear, number one, you tell them stop when it hurts. Because a lot of women, they're like, oh, well, I didn't want to upset the doctor. I'm like, no.
And it's just so hard to relax. It's so.
Yeah. So I tell them maybe put a couple pillows under your knees. Or somehow ask the doctor to bring some stuff in so you can support. Same with intercourse. So there's lots of things we do as pelvic physio, and that sounds crazy, but it's kind of like if I came to your workspace to like assess how your computer is ergonomically to make sure you don't get jaw and neck pain. Pelvic physio wise, I'm like, let's figure out ergonomically what would be the best position for you to have the pap smear.
Or sex,
to have
maybe?
The sex.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Or I have lots of patients, maybe they had a labral tear in their hip. Or hip replacement. They need to learn how to modify, just like in yoga. Yeah. Right? It's a lot of like the yoga props. Yeah. To help, how can we modify that position so they can still have intimacy with their partner? Right. So when we say, how does pelvic health affect women? I've seen women where their marriages. Yeah. So it can affect relationships, work. A lot of women leave the workforce because they're like, I'm fecally incontinent. Right? Or I'm leaking urine, or I'm trying to run a board meeting thing and I'm just can't control. Or I can't go through a podcast for an hour because I'd be up going pee 5 times. Right. So I think that's where it affects our society is we want women to have longevity and have pleasure in their life, but we don't want them exiting the workforce because they're in pelvic pain, right? Or they've got urgency frequency, or they won't fly on an airplane because they're afraid they could wet themselves.
That's a thing. Like I will say that I'm in a stage of life probably low estrogen or whatever. I don't, perimenopause, but when you're on a plane and you're waiting to go and take off and if there's turbulence or something on the way up, like you could be sitting in your seat for literally a couple of hours before you're even allowed to get up. And honestly, it actually causes me stress because I think, and there have been times when there's messing around with the pilots and this and that. And I'm like, what if I can't make it?
I treat so many patients like that. And again, that fear spiral, right? Yeah. The more scared, the more like, what? Well,
and then also you're always looking for places.
Yes. To go pee.
To go to the bathroom, like everywhere you go. And if you're kind of like worried about the
germs, on the toilet.
Yes. Really, it can be very sorry, I'm just trying to say, like, it can be very stressful, these things. And so what you're saying is it doesn't
It's
have
treatable.
to be that way.
Yes. And even when I had, so, TMI, even being a pelvic physio, you would think, oh, the pelvic physios don't have any problems. I'm like, no, we do.
Yeah.
So even though I knew all the things for birth and all the things, but when I had my daughter 19 years ago, just whatever happened in the birth, I had a massive anal sphincter tear. I had a massive prolapse. So I was fecally incontinent. And
which
also
is
incontinent of urine.
quite common.
Yeah.
I've heard. Yeah.
So that inhibits people. Like you
Yeah.
can't just go on an airplane and kind of hide the fecal incontinence.
No.
Right. And also when we talk about women needing to exercise for bone health and muscle health, one of the biggest barriers, one of the biggest reasons women stop exercising is because they're leaking.
Mm-hmm.
So as a pelvic physio, I can improve someone's bone health by helping them get to the gym because they're not afraid to leak.
Right.
So I think we just want to remove those barriers for whatever women want to do
mm-hmm.
in their life, whether it's work, play, travel, whatever, right?
Sex.
Yeah, and not have pain.
Yeah.
So prolapse, like we didn't talk about that,
what is
but
prolapse?
like when
let's talk about prolapse because we're sort of
super common,
hearing more and more about it.
Yeah.
I love that you've said that, perimenopause is having its moment right now, which is wonderful. So we're far more aware of some of these issues and how they impact women. But prolapse is not having quite there yet. But so what is prolapse?
Good
how
question.
does it manifest? What do we need to be looking for?
Yeah. So it's
how do you fix?
Quite common with women that have had children.
Yes.
But I've had lots of women that I've treated that have never had children. So essentially, pelvic organ prolapse is when either the bladder, uterus, rectum, intestines, they don't have the same integrity and support that they used to. So they're sitting at a lower area in the pelvis.
So they're not lifted up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that women might say, oh, I feel heavy in my vagina.
Okay.
Or
like pressure.
Yep. Or I feel like I have a golf ball. Or men, not that men get as much prolapse, but they might, hernias and prolapses are similar.
Okay.
Similar but different. So a hernia, like an umbilical hernia or an abdominal hernia, is like the front wall, the abdomen, has lost its integrity or support.
Right. So something's poking out
the front.
Yeah.
Right. So we're kind of, most people are like, oh yeah, I've heard of a hernia. So imagine it's similar but different going into your undercarriage, that there's not enough pelvic floor support from below, but also there might be too much pressure from above. So what I mean by that is, so again, even if someone doesn't have enough money to go see a pelvic physio, we can decrease prolapse pressure and prevent prolapse by not getting constipated. So if someone's on the toilet, so I've had women where they never had a baby, but they've got prolapse because their whole life they were like aggressively bearing down.
Yeah.
Right? So simple things to prevent too much pressure going down on bladder, uterus, whatever, rectum, would be optimizing that core strength and pelvic floor, but also the diaphragm, like how we breathe and how we poo.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be holding our breath when we lift weights at the gym.
Okay.
Or if people are gardening in their backyard, what we wouldn't want is every time.
Because that creates more internal pressure downwards.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So imagine, like a vertical downward pressure.
Yeah.
So in pelvic physio, we do a lot to support from the undercarriage. But I've had lots of women, I'm like, hey, just like, let's get you having some fiber and water and better posture on the toilet. They might need one treatment. And they're like, I don't have the symptoms anymore.
So, okay, let me just get this straight.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the constipation conversation, I mean,
because it's not sexy, but it's important.
And it's so common. Like literally, when you have your girlfriend groups or whatever and you sit around and like you're usually talking about your children or you're pooping.
Yes.
Or lack of it. So, but what you're saying is that like for some reason, women, I don't know, is it like my husband does not have this problem.
I know.
What is it? And when you're talking about prolapse and this idea of straining and like needing to be able to relax so that you're not straining anymore, but like
exactly
the constipation is actually creating more tone in that
Yes.
area, right? So like, how do you, if fiber and water is not a thing, like maybe it is stress. Like we're running
Exactly.
around and we're stressed about kids and we're doing this and sitting in our cars and
Yep. And we're not kind of in rest and digest. So again, pooing is kind of like having a baby.
yeah,
I know that sounds weird, but in the same way that if you're trying to birth a child, you can't be in a tense, upregulated state.
right.
So for sure, optimal bowel movement would be being able to have some time,
Yeah,
right? But also optimal hydration, fiber,
right.
But pelvic physio wise, making sure the sphincter can properly open.
Right. Like if you're already like locked up.
Yeah, it's going to be real. And then I see people strain and then they get hemorrhoids.
Yeah.
So we can also help with hemorrhoids. But if women are saying, well, how do I know if I have a prolapse? So it could be a feeling of pressure, heaviness. I feel like I have a tampon in my vagina, but there's no tampon, right? It's often worse end of the day. So new moms, they might go, oh, I wake up in the morning, I'm pretty good. Because those,
But then gravity and time.
and if their muscles don't have good endurance and strength, by the end of the day, they're like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable.
yeah.
For some people, it might also cause back pain because those organs aren't just supported by the pelvic floor. There's ligaments and connective
So
tissue.
it's almost like pulling.
Yeah. But I think it's important for people to know having prolapse does not necessarily mean they need surgery. Right? Pelvic physio, we can help improve it because there's different stages of it.
Okay.
Have you heard of pessaries?
No.
So we always try to, right? In healthcare, we always try to go conservative
Okay.
before jumping into surgery, right? So pelvic floor physio could help, optimal diet, better breathing, right? But then a pessary is there's several devices of different shapes. Have you seen that? It looks like a diaphragm.
Yes.
The most common one.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a device.
And you put it in there.
Yeah, you put it up the vagina. So usually you have to see a obstetrician or a trained pelvic physio to get fitted.
Yeah.
So essentially I say it's like a bra
Nice.
for your boobs.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially it gets put in the vagina, and then when it springs open, it kind of supports the vaginal walls, but also the organs.
Right.
So for some women, they're like, pop that in, go play pickleball, CrossFit, whatever.
And is that just for prolapse or is that just?
It's mainly for prolapse.
Yeah. Okay.
But there is a device called the Uresta,
Okay.
and I can send you the link. So the Uresta, you don't need to go see a doctor for. It's something you can order online, and it
Okay.
is a device that goes vaginally.
Yeah.
And it creates urethral support.
Right. Because I was going to ask you about
That can work really well.
Right.
Yep.
Because you did mention, and we sort of went on to another track about, gosh, we're talking about.
I know.
There's
Just about everything.
so many
I know.
things, and no,
It
and
can be
I love
overwhelming
it.
for people.
No,
Yeah.
but I love it because that's part of what we're trying to do here is to demonstrate that this is an area of our health that is totally overlooked.
It is.
It has a huge impact. And for many, I don't think there's one person, maybe, I don't know, like let's say over the age of 30, that hasn't experienced something like what you're talking about. So the urinary incontinence during exercise.
Yes.
What do we call that?
Stress incontinence.
Stress incontinence.
Yeah.
Yes. So I am in that phase of life.
Yeah.
Also was on medication for my breast cancer for 5 years that did kind of put a damper on
the estrogen.
The estrogen.
Yeah.
Which was a good thing. However, downstream effect of that was that things started to just be a little more relaxed down there, and I couldn't go for a run or have a big sneeze or anything like that without hello.
Yeah.
Is that's fairly common.
Yes.
And especially around perimenopause when estrogen levels are dropping.
Yep.
One of those impacts is why? Like why? I think you kind of said that.
Yeah.
But there are ways that you can, I mean, we kind of know why. You've said that's the tone.
Yeah.
You know what? You say it, not me.
So it can be multifactorial, right?
Okay.
But so let's say perimenopause, what a lot of women tell me too is their periods are getting heavier.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine your uterus, when it's got more blood in it, it's going to be heavier compared to a uterus that doesn't have as much blood. So even just it hanging lower is going to have an impact on other structures, right?
Right.
And And as we fluctuate in those hormones, right, perimenopause, we can be more bloated, more congested. Like a lot of women are like, oh, I feel like I put on 5 pounds of water weight. So all that extra pressure, but also it's affecting the integrity of the tissues. So imagine estrogen helps with collagen.
Mm-hmm.
So the vaginal walls and the urethral walls, they actually have more resilience and structure, ideally when the estrogen's optimized. But like you said, if you're like, okay, let's take estrogen off the table, right? If our pelvic floor muscles don't just support from the bottom, but they go around the vagina, around the urethra. So when your muscles are strong, right, it literally is supporting the tube,
Right.
and the bladder, right? So just like in gymnastics or whatever, right, we need a muscle to be strong, but coordinated.
Right.
So if I'm like, Shauna, I want you to do a bunch of jumping jacks, your muscles have to be able to anticipate. Every time Shauna's foot hits the ground, I need to contract.
Right.
So what we do in physio is we, again, just like that elbow thing, we would train you to get better and better at anticipating different direction changes.
Mm-hmm.
So if, that's often
Like
what
being
happens.
more responsive.
Yes.
Yeah.
To different, again, not just laying still and doing a Kegel.
Right.
Right. So if you're saying, oh, I'm leaking when I do jumping jacks or skipping. So as physios, we would break that task down and go, okay, Shauna, let's not skip quickly. We might just have you step to the side.
Mm-hmm.
I know this sounds weird, but I might vaginally assess someone as they do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
to
we make
see
sure
what's
you
going on.
got it, right? And then we slowly build that task. So eventually that you could jump up and down. So it's more getting the muscles to respond again to that load and pressure. Mm-hmm. It's all about pressure,
mm-hmm.
right? So we don't want the pelvic floor tight and tired.
Right.
Or I say like a hardtail mountain bike.
Right.
With no shock absorption.
Mm-hmm.
So for prolapse, pretty much for everything I treat, it's all about pressure and load.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an awesome pelvic floor diaphragm that works like a hydraulic on a downhill mountain bike.
Like I'm imagining it's just soft and bouncy.
Yeah, or like a pogo stick.
Yeah.
Right? If you have lots of, it's true though.
Poor again, Jason.
But for men too. I know, I think it's that Jane Fonda fallacy.
Yeah.
Or Arnold Schwarzenegger, that tight is strong.
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of women with incontinence. It's not that they're all loosey-goosey down there. It's that it's too tight and it's not able to respond because it's already in a tight position. So it has nowhere to go when you jump up and down. Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
But the hormones can change the tissue, but also, like Dr. Shamoran talked about, the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not sleeping well at night and have hot flashes or whatever, the pelvic floor is going to
mood swings,
have less ability to respond because your whole body is trying to manage so much.
Yeah.
So like Brittany said, when we can handle the stress, when we're optimizing our sleep and everything else, I have lots of patients, they're like, oh, when I get a good night's sleep, I don't leak urine.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Right? Because again,
that
it's
makes sense.
You know what I mean? So I know it sounds complicated, but it's more just, again, those simple things like sleep, nutrition, exercise, which again are still a lot. That can go a long way before you even have to reach out to see a therapist.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then if someone's already trying that and it's not working, then they could.
Yeah. And then also I love that you're sort of looking at this from a prevention perspective as well.
Yeah.
But then if they are experiencing symptoms, and it's like making things in life suck, then
get help.
Do something. So I wanted to talk about that because I do know that you have very good relationships with our urologist. Like you mentioned, Dr. Locke, who was my urologist.
Aww. She's awesome.
Lovely, wonderful. What is the process? Do people need a referral?
Good
How does this work?
Question.
Yeah.
So we're lucky in BC that physiotherapists have direct access.
Okay.
So they do not, no one needs a doctor's referral, whether it's an elbow, a vagina, or a wrist,
right?
Which is great, right? And I think before we recorded, you and I talked about, and Shauna can provide the link, that IHA does have Dr. Locke and myself and a few other pelvic physios. We actually wanted to create a free resource with accurate information, medical information on things people can start with at home. Or just get information about, well, Corrine was talking about the pelvic floor, but wow, that was a lot. And being able to go to that website and look at
just
the
learn
different
more.
categories
Yeah.
of what does the pelvic floor do,
Mm-hmm.
right? We work with a lot of the GI specialists. So lots of people with IBS, Crohn's, even other pelvic pain problems like endometriosis. Like we treat so many clients with endometriosis pain and then maybe pre-op, post-op, but even if they never go for surgery. So I think PCOS, there's so many, but just for people to know, it could be a digestive issue.
Yeah.
So anything really like between the rib cage and your knees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it can be hip pain, unresolved hip pain, because with the hormone menopause stuff, or tendons.
Having babies, like things get it's been a long time, but your hips kind of change. Yeah.
And our center of gravity and our proprioception.
Yeah.
So that's, I think for a lot of women, they're like, oh, I was pregnant. And all of a sudden the next day you are not pregnant after you have your baby, and your body doesn't know where it is in space. So that's all. Or your feet, like the feet can change a size or two,
right,
with the fascia that lets go. So as pelvic physios, I always look at people's feet, knees, hips, breath, posture. Like we're not, like we kind of look at the
it's
whole
all connected
thing. Yeah.
And so, and also you mentioned so you don't need a referral.
No.
Part of your work as a pelvic physio advocate is you do work with physicians, doctors, from many specialties. So like you said, urology, OB-GYNs,
cancer specialists, like oncologists.
So that they have more of an awareness, because there still is a bit of a gap there.
And they're busy too. Like
they're downstream. They're treating sort of like acute issues, right? But the good news is that you can access pelvic floor physiotherapy, and Corinne Wade is amazing, but you have amazing colleagues in this space.
Yes, we're lucky in Kelowna.
Yep.
And if people anywhere in BC that, and I can give you the link, but the BC Physiotherapy Association has a thing called Find a Physio.
Okay.
So let's say if someone's listening in Vancouver or Kamloops or whatever, they can actually put pelvic physio, Kamloops.
Right.
And it'll give a registry of because we need obviously extra training to become pelvic physios, right? But I think it's important too that in our current healthcare system, a lot of people wait maybe a year to see some of the specialists, which again, I know we're working on it, right? But this is something people could do. They could go see a pelvic physio, and then they might not need that specialty consult, or they might be able to avoid having a surgery.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a bladder sling surgery or a prolapse repair, which could save the healthcare system. Like, don't even get me started on that. Even UTIs, they've done research to show in the US that something like 25% of all admits for like infections for the elderly, 25% of those admits are all UTIs.
Wow.
Like, it's crazy, right?
And so UTIs, I don't know a ton about them, but I do know that part of it is that mechanism isn't working properly, and so you're having urine being trapped where it shouldn't be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even young people, if they're getting UTIs, quite often is their pelvic floor is not fully relaxing.
Yeah.
So they're not fully emptying their bladder. So that little bit of residual urine at the bottom of the bladder breeds bacteria, and then they keep getting, right?
Yeah.
So pelvic floor physio can help that.
Yeah.
If it's menopausal, so, once we've had those estrogen changes, estrogen vaginal estrogen can significant, like by 50%, I think they said it reduces UTIs. So again, even in the nursing homes, right? If we were able to because you can use vaginal cream, there's vaginal tablets for low dose vaginal estrogen. So there's do you know Dr. Rachel Rubin? There's a urologist in the US. So she's actually really trying to advocate with the FDA. So she said what's really sad is an elderly female, let's say someone's asleep at night and let's say they're 85 years old and they have urge because they have low estrogen. They're like, I have to go pee. And so they quickly get up and it's dark and they slip and fall. They break their hip. And we know the incidence of mortality when that person's in the hospital, maybe they get pneumonia and they might not survive.
Yeah.
So that urologist, Dr. Rachel Rubin, she's really trying to say, hey, we could prevent so much disability and
falls.
Just by making sure that with that adequate estrogen, we're not going septic, We're not having urge frequency. And again, the travel and all the other stuff. But I think it's important, like you said, it's that downstream. It's like, what was the root cause of that person falling down? They were running to the bathroom or they slipped in urine.
Totally.
So I think that's just good, I think, to look at that.
Because it is
big picture.
And we didn't get to that, but I just love that you've painted a really complete picture, that it is from childhood all the way to, you know, our golden years, that these things can come up, but that they are treatable, and that I guess the primary goal is that you don't have to live with these things.
And a lot of it's quite simple.
Yeah.
Like, I know it sounds complicated because we were talking about lots of topics, but like even avoiding constipation for children, constipation is one of the root causes of bedwetting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And same with adults. If you're constipated, the signals from the rectum going to the bladder can create insane urgency. So I've had patients that I've seen them once. I just got them like pooping properly. They're like, my urge is gone.
Yeah.
So again, it can be super simple. So I do try to simplify it, and that doesn't have to be rocket science.
And life-changing for people.
Yeah.
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 Oh my goodness.
I know
Corrine.
that was a lot.
I know. I'm actually happy because I just know that we're going to have you back. I definitely want to have you back because I want to talk about men's health and
all genders.
All genders. Yeah. Which is a really important point, that you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this particular specialty.
Awesome.
And there is so much stigma that's still attached to topics around pelvic floor. And I mean, I say bits and pieces. I shouldn't. I should just call it what it is.
Yeah.
You know, our vaginas, our prostate, penises, rectum, anus, like all of those things, we still sort of want to talk about. Like,
I know. I also
we don't
my
even
goal,
really want to talk about it.
I will say my goal with children or with anyone is if I was talking about your nose or your elbow, you don't get all weird.
Yeah.
And same with children, right?
Yeah.
So I've tried to raise my kids that if I talk about those body parts, they don't go like kind of. So
it's hard though, because everything's working against us, but I appreciate that. And we've tried to do that too. Having kids in sports has been helpful because they are just all out there sometimes.
But I think if anyone wants more information, right? Like I said, that IH website's really good.
Okay.
Or any of the pelvic physios in Kelowna, right? We're always trying to support the public and give information. But if anyone has questions, they can always DM me on Instagram, or you know what I mean? Like to try and get accurate information.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to wrap this particular conversation up. And I have a couple of kind of more reflective questions for you, Corrine, because I really respect that you've been working in healthcare for a really long time. And you are the gal, like you're the person here.
And I'm always still learning, too, right? Like I'm always still learning.
Everybody knows Corinne Wade.
That's funny.
I'm just curious, after decades working in this space and just seeing how healthcare has morphed and evolved and changed. If you think back to sort of young Corrine coming out of physio school and Corrine today, how would you say your definition of health or healthcare has changed over the years, or has it?
What I think is better is when I got out of physio school, I think both patients and like allied healthcare, let's say physios, massage, there was always a hierarchy of the doctors were way up here and then everyone else was down, but even the nurses. And we always felt, I shouldn't go talk to that specialist because like I'm in a different, I'm below them or something. Right. And it's not that they ever did or said anything to make that was just the way it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it is lovely. I think is so different. The way the medical students are being trained now is so much more collaborative. So I've had medical students come in or midwife students come into my clinic because they're all cross-training with different professions.
Amazing.
So it's way more collaborative. And I think also patients are better at advocating for themselves, I think because of the internet. So patients are better educated, which I think is great. Because then if there is something, they can Google it and they're more likely to go see their doctor. So I think that's what's way better. There's maybe sometimes too much information. It can be overwhelming, but So I think there's better collaboration and less of a hierarchy.
And I would also say too, I agree. I do think that, Dr. Google got a bad rap for a bit there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there is so much very good information that is available.
Yeah.
And that if people are tuned in to their bodies and what's going on and they're curious, that you can find a lot of information and advocate for yourself in that way.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's amazing. I also really love what you said about how some of these conditions, many of them, most of them, all of them, are not just physical. Like they're all interconnected.
Oh my goodness.
Psychosocial, biological, like all of these things. And I don't really think we had as good an appreciation for that 30 years ago.
No. And I think we have more research on it.
Yeah.
Now too.
Which matters in the healthcare space, right? It's not just, we call it in yoga, the woo-woo stuff. It's like, it's all connected. The body keeps score. Now we actually have
research
data
on it.
to demonstrate that. So this is the question that I ask all of our guests. It's my favorite, one of my favorites. As you know, this podcast is called The Wealthy Podcast. We think we're very clever because it's a play that health is wealth. And then just recognizing that there are so many aspects to what keeps us healthy and well. What areas of your life or health do you feel that you're wealthy or abundant?
Well, I'd say I've always been passionate about health, but I grew up in a family that was that way. Like I grew up on a farm. So I'd say I feel very wealthy, healthy. Probably the same way I talk to my clients, like the food part, the exercise part, but I love travel. So I like to think of wealth as more like how the Europeans live, right? Where if we're eating, like we're present as we eat, right? Or if you're having sex or whatever, or yoga, that you're like present as you're doing it.
It's not just performative. It's
like, so I think that's where I feel more wealthy compared to when I was 20 or 30.
Yeah.
I think I feel more embodied.
Yeah.
Probably because like doing yoga with you or meditation, but and I think, that's where I feel like but I also feel wealthy that I learn from my patients. Yeah. I learn the most from them, which is cool. Yeah.
Okay. The last word is yours. If you could leave our listeners with one message, what would it be?
I would say pelvic health, like we said, is essential, like all ages, all genders. I'd say that's the main.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, this was really fun. I suspect this is not the last time that we'll have Corinne Wade hanging out with us here on the podcast. Next time. We'll talk about the boys, and there's lots to talk about there for sure. It is always just such a pleasure to hang out with you, Corinne, because like you're very knowledgeable, but you're also just like a really effervescent human.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful.
Well, I try to keep it lighthearted because, like you said, a lot of these issues are very triggering and vulnerable, and I think that's important. That I probably should have said that at the beginning. That if any of the topics we talked about, are triggering for people, that like it's important for them to take care of themselves, and you know what I mean, because sometimes we might be talking about things that someone like birth trauma or something. So I think that's super important that we work with lots of counselors and to unpack that stuff.
Totally.
Kind of. Right?
Yeah. And I think that you have really helped elevate the conversation around pelvic floor health. You're very active in community.
Yeah.
You are. I see you at all the things. And your message, like you said, is pretty simple, that like pelvic floor health is tied to overall health in really very demonstrable ways. Like we can see that. So thank you just for being a stand for our bits and pieces.
That's right. You're welcome.
And it's been a pleasure having you today. Awesome. Thank you, Corrine.